United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Funny story, I make that announcement so many times at athletic events that it just comes off the top of my head. So, for our listening public, anyone out there, we have a very light agenda and we are expecting the potential for Mr. Spencer to join us mid-meeting as he is in a client call. We start off tonight going through a number of bid awards. We start off with the Bellingham Medway Road Improvement Project. Does anyone want to cover that?
We had some great bids on that project, and it just as it says, Route 126, Medway, Bellingham Town Line. It's a project that's been, we've worked closely with the town of Medway on that. And, the portion that's in Bellingham, we're paying for it. Don DiMartino did the bidding on that, so it was structured in such a way we're paying for what we're responsible for, and obviously the town of Medway's paying for what they're responsible for. The estimate, 1.1 million, and those are based on Mass DOT figures, because Mass DOT publishes what the various costs of different activities are. So that's where that's not make-believe, that's a real $1.1 million estimate. It doesn't mean that that's what the bids are going to come in at, and obviously they came in much better than that, to the tune of about half that, although they did range from $636,000 all the way up to $1,297,000. But Don has a recommended motion there. If somebody wants to.
I'll do it. I move the contract 2020 BMRI Bellingham and Medway Road Improvements be awarded to the low bidder, PJ Keating Company of Lunenburg, Massachusetts. And what's the amount that's not on here?
On the second page.
You gotta keep second.
Sorry. For the bid amount of $636,549.14.
Give a second.
Second.
Seconded by Cindy. Janice, is that our share or the total?
That's we're awarding the entire project, and then our share will, I believe our share is either 40% or 60%. I know it's a 60-40 project,
okay,
but we're responsible for our portion of it.
Okay.
That's the total amount of the.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. 4-0. All right. Next up, we have the bid award for drinking water supply well rehab.
And again, Don's done a good job explaining what that is. It's exactly as it's described, and we'll be looking to pay for that out of enterprise funds. So.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the contract 2021-WR drinking water supply well rehab to the low bidder, Dennis L. Maher Services, Inc. of Sterling, Massachusetts. Second.
First and seconded. Interesting that we got 2 bids for this and like a dozen for the other.
Different type of work.
Yeah.
Much different. Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Also 4-0. Next up, we got our PCD capacity request from the Charles Apartments at 151 North Main Street.
Again, Don did a nice job of giving you a summary what that's all about. The town has about 377,000 gallons of capacity with Charles River Pollution Control District. We pay for that capacity. We've had that capacity since 1990. It makes sense to have the capacity used. We'll still have a fair amount in reserve, but it helps to control costs, as we've said in the past. The more people that are connected, the lower the sewer costs. So it makes sense, and it's a large number, a large apartment complex, but it still leaves the town with 84,000 gallons of capacity, which is a good percentage of the total 377,000. What we own. I know Mr. Connor could tell me what percentage that is off the top of his head, but I won't.
So what exactly is the wording for this motion, Dennis?
So essentially what we're doing is we're voting to grant Charles River Pollution, we're voting to grant Charles River Apartments 151 North Main Street. Let's see, what are they looking for? A number of gallons of capacity. 32,000 gallons per day is what the actual flow is. So we're granting them the authority to tie into our sewer system and utilize Charles River Pollution Control District capacity. He's estimated what the total gallons are, but obviously they're not locked to that. If they're a little over or a little under, we're allowing them to tie into our system.
So for the purpose of the formality of this, do we need to put a cap not to exceed? Because they,
We never have in the past.
okay,
We know how many units there are. They base it on the average flow per unit. And obviously, we have plenty of capacity to handle that. So essentially what we're doing is we're allowing them.
Is it an additional
Design.
32,000? Is that what I'm seeing by this application?
Let's see. Title V volume of the existing treatment plant on this property is 32,000 gallons per day. So yeah, we would be looking at 32,000 gallons per day. It's easier to estimate them because they have a on-site treatment plant, so we know what's been going through there. And it
Okay.
still leaves us, as I said,
52,000.
yeah, which is a
Okay.
considerable amount when you consider we've had sewer in this town since 1990. And we're still got this much excess capacity. And we always have the opportunity to go back to the town, to Charles River Pollution Control District and look to get additional capacity. But we are paying for the capacity that we have and we're not using it.
So why don't we renegotiate to lower our capacity?
Because ultimately we'll have other projects come in like Red Mill, although that's accounted for here. You know, if we didn't have capacity and Charles River Pollution Control District wasn't willing to give it to us or didn't have it to give to us, you know, we'd be out of luck. So,
Okay.
you know, that's the answer. I mean, we purchased this capacity.
We couldn't enter into a contract that we could renegotiate every year if increased capacity warrants it,
It's only, they're only gonna grant it if it's there.
if it's available?
Yeah, if it's
Someone else
available.
might take it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For
Okay.
instance, with Woonsocket, we own over 1 million gallons of capacity. We might flow 200,000. We got it on a much lower deal back in 1988, but there isn't. I mean, that's simply what we own there.
Okay.
The bulk of our store goes, well, it's fairly balanced.
So for Charles River, it's the same as Woonsocket though, it's, that cost is, the fixed cost is spread out over all the users, so all we're doing is reducing other people's bills by expanding it.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we don't need to put in the 32,000, we just
No,
need to,
I think because, I mean, if it went over, it's not like we'd go down there and say.
because we have capacity.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
right.
Gotcha.
All right.
Okay.
But we have a much better estimate of what they're actually, I mean, we have real numbers here, whereas usually a subdivision comes in, and it's based on the number of bedrooms.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll take a motion to, per the letter, to adjust the capacity request for Charles Apartments, 151 North Main Street.
So moved.
You have a second? First, seconded by Ms. Grant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Grant acceptance. So we have 4 grants.
The motion is right there on
You want me to just read them?
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of Selectmen accept the following gifts and grants with said expenditures to be under the direction of the parties listed below. Do I have to read each of these, Hillary, or what's?
the, I would,
$37,500 Mass Department of Transportation for the Complete Streets grants. $7,500 Mass Association of Council on Aging for nutrition and food insecurity. $1,167 from Mass Association of Council on Aging, MCOA, Caregiver and Respite Care, and $10,000 MIIA Electronic Signboard at BMS.
Second.
first and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. March 15th minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the March 15th minutes. Is that what we have to say?
Yep.
second,
First and seconded. Any other issues, discussion?
No.
Seeing none, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Under our old business, we have a joint appointment associate planning board member. And Jim, I believe this is your note from me, the planning board is recommending Robert Lucier.
That's correct.
All right. So we'll be looking for a motion to also, where it's a joint appointment, approve Robert Lucier as planning board member, associate planning board member.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we appoint Mr. James Lucier? Robert Lucier, I'm sorry, Robert Lucier as associate planning board member.
Give a second.
second.
Kelly gets credit. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. New business, Refund of automatic amusement license, Rock and Coal. Cindy, I believe this is
Mr.
yours.
Chairman, yes, I was approached by the owners of Rock and Coal to potentially get refunded for their automatic amusement licenses. And after talking to Hillary, there are, how many total? Kelly, you have the
So
number, the
there
information in front of you?
are 6 businesses who have automatic amusement device licenses for a total of $1,200 out of all 6 of those businesses.
So I think, I don't know that we're necessarily looking to establish a policy, but more of a exception because of COVID-related expenses that perhaps, if we're approached by these other businesses other than Rock and Coal, we would also entertain it, the opportunity to waive them. It's just something I wanted to bring to the board to think about. I think for Rock and Coal specifically, it's what's it say, Phil? It's $300.
15 machines is $20 a automatic amusement device is the way the license is.
And the background on Rock and Coal is they used to have, as you all know, that whole separate side building, which they have since returned all of those gaming devices and are no longer going to be using them. So I was just looking to see if we would entertain the opportunity to waive the cost of said equipment, machinery, I don't know what we call it.
Yeah. I the gaming devices.
Games, yeah.
Video games. They're basically video games and
Yeah.
other types of games are over there.
So,
Do we have a second
Second?
discussion?
I'd just say the same thing. I mean, I have nothing wrong with helping any businesses, but there's a lot of businesses that have had issues and setting precedents for getting a lot of, a lot coming to the board, asking us to waive their fee. It just concerns me that this will just continue. And this is a more difficult one because you can't play those games, right?
Right.
You just can't do it. It's
nor
very
did we ever
different
get to
than,
play them.
yeah, and they don't even have people in there to play the game, so,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
My thoughts is twofold. One, they got a lot of money in grants, but also it's a situation that was brought to you. I think from a policy standpoint, COVID is as unique as it gets. And I would be voting in favor, but I think on everything that we put out in the future, we should just put non-refundable for everything that goes out in the future, unless it's already there.
Yeah, and let me be very clear, this is definitely COVID specific.
Yeah.
It's not something I would do, under any other circumstances, so.
It's a very specifically worded
Yeah.
license, and Hillary's already taken the steps to have these businesses, the next time the licenses come for renewal, to actually take inventory of these amusement devices, so everyone is properly credited or not, going
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, as a sidebar too, the other thing that Hillary discovered through this process is that we are grossly undercharging compared to our
Yeah.
neighboring towns, right?
I'm sure
To
we
the
are.
tune of $20 versus $100, right? You said, Hillary? So
That's something to think about.
it's something to think about going forward, but
And we're seeing that Mary's on the phone, but maybe we already have the answer. They're current with their taxes.
I haven't, so the last time I did an analysis that I gave you the spreadsheet, the last time this was taken up, I had checked their tax status. I have not checked it since then. I don't know, Hillary, did you run it by the collector's office?
Not today, I did not.
The last time we checked, were they okay?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't know off the top of my head, so I'd
Okay.
have to check that. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So would you amend your motion as long as they're current with their taxes?
Yes.
There was a second that, Kelly?
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay. Mr. Town Administrator.
Just gonna run through a few quick things. We went back into the red based on our positivity rate. It's a crazy formula when you think about it. The more people that test, the more likely you're going to have more positives, and you're going to have positive side, and you get into the red. So it's a crazy formula, but the bottom line is our numbers are declining once again. It seems that there is an uptick with younger people getting the virus, which isn't shocking since a lot of older people are getting vaccinated. But that's what we're seeing, and you know, which is what we're seeing at the state level. It seems Bellingham pretty much is consistent with the state, which isn't shocking. As the state numbers went up, we went up, and when the state numbers came down, we came down.
Right.
And we're seeing the same trends that everybody else is seeing, I guess. But Esther is optimistic that we're going to be out of the red when those communities are announced again, because we all get those notifications. I think we were back into the 20s today as far as the number of positives are concerned. The regional clinic in Uxbridge is going great. A lot of Bellingham people are being vaccinated over there. I believe it's 9 towns that are included in that clinic, and Bruce has been doing great work over there. We have a lot of volunteers. Firefighters are over there participating with the vaccinations. So it's gone great. I'm glad that we were able to get involved in that, and obviously props to Representative Soda for making that happen. We're the offices that were somewhat limited as far as services go, the senior center, the library. I mean, they're picking up a lot more activities going on at the senior center than were before. Recycling center is open on Sundays again. FinCom, we're meeting next Monday night, and 2 big projects coming up. The TIP project, which runs from, we talked about it a bunch of times, from Easy Douglas Street down to the town center, that Jim's been doing a great amount of work with. We're still on track to have that thing bid out. The state bid it out actually in December. And the beautiful thing about TIP projects is the state handles the management of the entire project. So from Don's perspective, he loves that because he doesn't have to manage it or oversee it. So that's happening. And of course, the town center bids are open this month. So I think the next time we meet, we should have bid results. May not be ready for an award, but we'll have the results in hand. So that project is real and it's happening.
That's great. Anything else under new business?
I have to just bring up under new business.
Please.
It's not really new business, it's current business, which is, I feel like seems like somewhat of a bit of misinformation about the vaccines and how long each one lasts and what's the best one to get. So I don't know if it's worth our time to maybe do a Monday morning or some kind of pre-recorded thing where we have Esther and we just talk about what's going on. I feel like I'm getting a lot of calls on, you know, should I get Johnson & Johnson or Moderna versus Pfizer, and now I'm hearing now that we might have to get additional booster shots, and just being in front of that from an informational standpoint.
Maybe a little round table.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I mean, some kind of like we did with the development series. Maybe we do something with COVID Unplugged. I don't know. I don't know what we call it.
I think it's a nice idea, but
Yeah.
I have to say I would want to stay away from providing any advice to any individuals on what's best or what's not best for them.
Yeah, I'm not
So
saying that.
to me, I'm
Just
not
kinda-
for that. My answer when people have asked me, check with your primary care.
Yeah.
Because the primary care knows their health. They know what may be good. They get the latest information from the CDC on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter's a nurse practitioner. She comes home. She's with us for a little bit right now. And she says things change daily.
Right.
She says, what my dad, she said, you had no reaction to Johnson, to the Pfizer, but you might have a reaction,
Right.
with the second shot coming up. She says, it's all over the map.
Great.
There's not enough information. So I would, personally, I don't think it's incumbent upon Bellingham. The recommendation is check with your primary care. I mean, I just don't want to give any medical advice from the town of Bellingham and then not because I'm afraid to get sued. That's not it. Their primary care knows best, and
Agreed,
and they
but I
get those
think-
phone calls.
But I think we have an opportunity to at least get out there and say, here,
Check
that's
with your
part of
primary
our
care.
point, and, we get Esther out there who's been in the forefront
Oh,
for
yeah.
all of us for well over a year now,
Yeah.
just to kind of, here's the resources you can go to. We're not saying we're telling you what's right or wrong, but here's what information is available to you.
So
as we
would
go.
you revisit the Monday show that we were doing
Yeah,
and
just
maybe
do one
distribute
Monday
it?
show. It doesn't have to be, I'm not saying elaborate, but I'd love to have Esther out there and
Maybe Esther can put it out there. It's funny, that was one of the Malika Marshall, whatever
Yeah.
the name is, that tonight, that was one of the
Easy.
questions.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, the boosters, am I gonna need the
Right.
booster?
Yeah, you don't know. We
Yeah,
just don't know
it
yet.
was, they're still saying the best shot to get is the one that you can schedule the quickest.
Right, exactly.
It
And
doesn't
it doesn't have
matter.
to be the end all be all, or, it's fact-based, but at least we're giving people information to, we're trying to help them become educated on what the options are that are best for them and make your decisions based on that information.
Well,
I have
maybe,
to-
yeah.
Good. I have to say, I was going to say about the Uxbridge facility. I mean, it's really great that the Southern Worcester County, my wife and I went there last week, and I couldn't believe how smooth it was. Just going in there, the identification, sitting down. We actually got there a few minutes beforehand. They said, come right in. They were fantastic. I mean, they were really, really good. We were in and out of there in 25 minutes because you got to sit around. Most of the time was just waiting for that 15 minutes. You had to wait to make sure you had no adverse reaction. I was really pleased, and I hope more people. I think it's easy. You're also parked right there. Like Gillette. I took my in-laws there. It's a long walk for some of these elderly
Right.
people at Gillette. So
It's
please take advantage of the Uxbridge facility.
Right.
with the exception of the people providing the shots, obviously,
Right.
they're paid healthcare
Yeah.
professionals or
Right.
firefighters. The rest are all volunteers. Jim's volunteered a couple of shifts. Bruce has been down there, and that's what they're counting on.
I'm hoping to do that too, once I get vaccinated.
Yeah.
So, just something to,
You haven't been vaccinated?
I'm going tomorrow hopefully, for my first shot tomorrow. Kevin, my husband signed up, but I'm not yet.
Maybe we talk offline about whether we just do an update of the show, particularly where Mr. Morano would have a lot to say about the kids coming back into
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
But then find a way to broadcast that it's available, has been taped. Maybe even make a plug toward our development series that we did, just
Yep.
some recent shows. As
Yeah.
long as we don't do it early in the morning.
I understand.
Because you're busy.
Very busy in the morning.
We can always record it and then.
Yes.
have
We
it-
could record it, say, I don't know.
Yeah.
When you're done with your 18.
Might be
Yeah.
helpful,
I digress.
Cindy, just to get a list of maybe the questions that you are being asked, and somehow we could reframe those questions to be more informational and not like a medical advice.
Right,
Right?
think that's a good point.
Just kind of spinning around, so, these are the types of questions we're receiving. We're not doctors. Esther's in the forefront. Here's what she has to say about some of these questions.
perfect.
We can talk
Yes.
I
about
would do it
maybe
that
talk
way,
about the
that's okay.
election, talk about town meeting coming up, and
Yeah.
kind of just make it a.
Yeah,
an
kind of all
update.
encompassing, I
Yeah.
like that. Yes.
One note that I have is on Thursday from 7 o'clock, Mr. Meehan will be at the high school again. He has expanded the audience to the neighbors that would be in the 300 or 400 foot zone.
This
So you're gonna
Thursday?
This
be
Thursday.
in the library again?
It's gonna be in the gym for space.
I did not know that.
And again, for people, anyone in the public, if they are watching this, it's not for the town, it's for the regional thing, because the timing for that it's not appropriate for someone that is not in that 300, 400 foot
Yeah.
zone.
Right.
But I know that you attended the others, so it's available. Right,
So
anything
what time
else?
Did you say, Mr. Chairman? Sorry.
What?
7?
Seven,
Okay, I didn't
yeah.
know that.
No, just, I guess I was talking to Dennis about this. I've been approached by, a couple of residents in Bellingham, I've known them for a long time. They asked me what can be done about the parks in Bellingham, specifically the basketball court. And I know that Dennis and Mr. Chair, you went down, took a look, and for those folks listening, we are thinking about the parks, want kids to be using the parks, and there's some process going on to potentially repave or resurface the basketball court, do something nice with it. So that's in the works. And I did, because of need, try to find a place to bring my grandsons to the park a couple of weeks ago, and I drove through every park in town and looked at all the parks, and the one in South is great. Couldn't get into the Silver Lake, but I'd love to see these parks get some improvement. There's absolute need for improvements just into the facility itself, the swings, the different types of apparatus available. So I know that money's tight and all, but it would be great to see some of these parks get an overhaul, because they
Yeah.
really need it for the kids in town.
I reached out to Cape and Islands, which specializes it, and they said they do tennis courts. They actually got out of the business of doing basketball courts because so many businesses are starting with the backyard.
Yeah.
So I reached out to a couple, but I think some of it's a size issue, but we'll
Yeah,
track down some because it's more the court than the nets.
right, exactly.
And the school parks are hard, like Stallburg, now that the schools are only K through 3.
That's right.
it's hard to fundraise for those because you need to fundraise for years and years and years. So people don't want to fundraise
For something that they're
for
doing.
5 years out when their child isn't
Won't
going
be
to be
there.
there.
Gone, yeah.
And that's what the problem with South was, is a lot of the families who raised a lot of money for that new playground, their children were already gone before the playground was installed. So it's hard, as we saw with the sign at BMS, it's hard
Yeah, it's not easy.
to for individual groups in those schools to raise the funds to
Well,
revamp those.
I'm just thinking along the lines of we have new businesses coming to town. Jim's very much aware of how we could maybe, leverage some of the new businesses
New
coming to help
development,
us out, new development to help
Absolutely.
us with some of these parks in town. Because I agree, I mean, my wife and I were part of the fundraising for the first Stallbrook playground in the front, and that was when it was K through 6. Well, now it's K through 3, so it's different, and we're trying to find something.
Yeah.
The one at South School of Harper Street is actually quite nice and expansive.
Mhm.
It's fantastic. I'd like to see more of that. And then the other thing, I did get a couple of emails about, hey, Don, you were talking about a dog park a couple of years ago. Where's that? What can we do about a dog park? And these are independent people. So I'd like to start talking more about how we can get a dog park back going in this town. I know we've talked about different locations, but I'd like to seriously take a look at where we can get a dog park in this town. So
Didn't Lobster have set aside potential
No.
space for a dog park, or no?
No.
no, it's too
No?
far down the road too. It's just
Well,
not.
I was wondering.
Campanelli did at
I know.
the apartment
Some-
complex.
Okay.
It's part of the
Maybe
apartment
somebody-
complex. They said it could be open to the general public too, but
But it's small.
yeah, it's small. It wouldn't
Really
be
small.
overly welcoming to the general
No,
public.
it wouldn't.
It was interesting, someone mentioned to me that on, just outside the scope of the town common area, there's some land that we own that is available.
It's owned by the town. I think it's under the authority of the town common trustees. So whether or not that's an option or not, I know
That's center of town, too.
Yeah, you want something centrally located for everybody to use.
All right, with that, we'll plan on that meeting, and I think some of you have just been trying to expand this meeting to get the old.
Yeah, because I'm gonna
time.
win the 36-minute under. That's
Let's see if we can
why.
make it to a half
I've
hour.
been watching that clock.
Having achieved our agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Have a second?
Da-da-da-da. I'm not-
Second, I'll second
Okay,
it.
I wasn't second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night, Bellingham.
Good
Good
night.
night.